Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel, We're the Movie Couple. I'm Wendy.
I'm Dustin.
And this is our non-spoiler review for The Crow. Soulmates Eric and Shelley are brutally murdered when the demons of her dark past catches up with them. Given the chance to save his true love by sacrificing himself, Eric returns to seek bloody revenge against the killers, traversing the worlds of the living and the dead to put the wrong things right. Now, before we get into reviewing this movie, I do want to put the preface that I read in a couple of interviews that Lionsgate has stated that this is, even though we've been calling this a remake, they're not calling it a remake, they're calling it a reimagined telling of the source material, which is they're basing it on the comic book, which, if you want to kind of argue the similarities, the 1994 The Crow is also based on the comic book. And they also, Lionsgate put out a statement, and again, I read this in an interview, an article, that while the main characters are named Eric and Shelley, they are not Eric Draven and Shelley Webster, which I found a little confusing. Well, I mean, if you're going to retell, then just I don't know, take liberty and just give a different name. But they did, in the movie specifically, never actually said their last names.
Yeah,
what
they
I
kept
can
it
remember.
They only referred to them as Eric and Shelley, and that's it. So it can be assumed that they are the same characters, but I guess according to Lionsgate, they're not.
Yeah, and also this is for those who are going into watching this movie, The Crow, you may have heard of the 1994. For those who have not seen the 1994 version of it, I would say just go into this one blind. Don't go and watch the 1994 version, and just because they do tell their own story. So the similarities are Eric and Shelley. They're in love. They have this relationship. They were very wrongfully and very brutally murdered. So all that through line, and then Eric comes back
to seek revenge.
Yeah, with the power of the Crow, seeks revenge on the killers who murdered them. So that is, I would say, about as similar as this movie gets in the through line of if you want to compare it to the 1994. But other than that, the villain of it all is quite different.
Yes.
And the characters, if you saw the 94 version, there are characters that are very prominent in that one that are not in this one. So there is a pretty big difference.
Yeah, they kind of did go very much. I mean, they kind of kept the skins and the bone and the skins of the storyline. But yeah, they really focused on a lot of different things in this movie. I think I can give a little bit of a spoiler for the 94 version. They start off, the beginning of that movie, they are dead. They start off with the story and they have the murder has already happened.
Yes.
This one, it does not happen until at least halfway into the movie. So they're really focusing on a completely different part of this story than the 94 version did.
Yeah, so we have Bill Skarsgard as Eric, and we have FKA Twigs as Shelley. And yeah, they do take, in the beginning, they kind of give a little bit of an origin to a very young Eric. And I feel like they always, one of my main criticism for this movie is that they establish something okay, here's an origin of something, but they don't finish it. They just present it. Yeah. But there is okay, but what was the point of presenting that? So we show in the beginning there's a little something with young Eric, but why did you show it to us? Because it never explained it. They just showed it, and I was like, okay, that is time that is taken away now from the rest of the stuff. And they do the same thing, honestly, for Shelley and Eric's relationship, how they met. And you've seen the trailer. We are going to refer to the trailer. So if you haven't seen that and you consider that spoiler, I would click out right now. But if you don't mind us talking about the trailer, then stay in. They meet in a correctional facility. But it's not explained to, is it juvie? Are they that young? Are they, and then there's a really weird and muddy timeline of how long they were there for also. So I feel like they were trying to fast track their relationship, and I think the intention was, their passion was very, very hot. It was a very instantaneous attraction, very magnetic, and it moved very quickly, which is fine. But there was the chemistry, sometimes it was there, and sometimes it wasn't.
Yeah, when they did have their relationship going, there were a lot of times where it did click, where I thought it was cute, I liked how they were talking, I liked how they, but it was all done throughout, like, say, multiple different little montages. Yes. There wasn't really anything that really, like, gave us some good meat and, like, some good, good bones to, good meat to this movie, to where after all of these little montages, you were kind of like, okay, so they're in love. There wasn't really any good way to grab the audience, to make them care about when these two characters met their end. And when they finally do, it doesn't quite give the impact that it really needs to.
Yeah, and then let's lead to what led them to be murdered. We'll keep that real vague, just so if you choose to watch the movie, you can find out for yourself. But as we mentioned in the synopsis earlier, Shelley does have a dark past. It does catch up with her. They do a great job of showcasing that. That I actually enjoyed.
Yeah.
Because they like thoroughly play that out, and you're like, ooh, there's intrigue. What is happening? What did you see? What did you do? And they introduce a character that is very interesting, that could have appeared in the comic book. That I am not sure, but it didn't appear. This person didn't appear in the 1994 version of it, but I like what they did with it. But there were some people that this villain meets along the way that sees certain very dark things, and then we just like forgot about them. Like the movie just forgot about them, but they made a point of this person witnessing something real horrible and it just never played out. And I was like, so we're just gonna show it, but we're gonna throw it away. She just doesn't exist. Cool. So,
and I also think that is actually one of the big weak points of this movie, is that they had some things that I'm like, ooh, are they going to develop that? This seems really cool. I want to know more about this. I want to see where it goes. And then it just cuts off.
Yes.
And you're like, but we just spent a whole bunch of time talking about how important this was, or how cool this is, but none of the lore of this movie really ever came to fruition. Never really made any good point, or made it so you're like, oh, that's what it was all about?
Yeah.
I feel like they kind of like, hey, here's a nice ball, and then just dropped it.
And, let's fast track to now Eric is back, and he, has risen. And he has, with the power of the crow, he kind of can like walk between the worlds, can't die, which a lot of aspects of it looks really, really cool. The trailer promised us gore. We definitely got gore in this movie. I will also say that trailer gave like 85 to 90% of what's already in the movie. So that's kind of disappointing.
Yeah,
I was looking for way more. And it was there. There were a lot of stuff that's like, you're not going to be bored watching those scenes. But I was like, oh, we've kind of already seen this part, and then now in the movie we're just seeing like the extended version, the full version.
I kind of feel
cuts.
Like when you have a comedy movie and you tell all of the good jokes in the trailer, and then you're like, well, we already saw all of that. Yeah, I felt the exact same way. That I was really surprised on. They really pushed this movie as an action movie, as this, this violent, gory kind of movie, goth action,
fantasy, yeah.
And we saw, like Wendy said, probably about a good 80-90% of those moments in the trailer. There's
so
you're
not really surprised when you see it. Like, you're kind of like, there are certain scenes where you're like, ooh, okay, but the trailer had already showed you most of it. Would like to talk about the performances of our actors in this one. I really do like Bill Skarsgård. I've liked him in his projects. This one, for some reason, it just wasn't hitting for me. I felt like either the director didn't know which way they wanted, like which direction they wanted this Eric to go, because he is like kind of one kind of mood in one scene, and to be a completely different mood in the other scene. And I hate to like keep comparing to the 94 version, but that is, and I don't feel like I like, there's some people that's like their movie, right? That's not the case for me, but I understand why it is that for a lot of people. So that's why we're kind of doing a little bit of a comparison. And that movie, what it does well is like, Eric knew what kind of character he was, and he was that throughout. And I felt like the Eric in this one was just, it didn't transition well. The kind of like different like moods and personalities he would be. It was felt really jumpy, like kind of like jump cutty. So I didn't really fully buy into his performance, unfortunately, this way. Like, it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, and I don't really think that it's a lot on the performances. I think it's a lot with the dialogue, the script,
Perhaps the editing.
The editing. And I think that's a way with a lot of the characters and the actors in this movie, is the fact that it wasn't technically bad acting technique, just the way that the editing and the dialogue ended up having no real development or no real point sometimes, to where they just kind of drop the ball on certain topics. It makes it so there isn't much growth to these characters that these actors can actually play.
Yeah, so I will say, let's go ahead and give our final thoughts and give our rating for The Crow. Look, I thought it wasn't bad. Like, I think I went in thinking, oh gosh, it could be really, really bad. It wasn't bad. There were moments that I wish it was better. I think the action scenes are exciting. I think there's a lot of certain moments aesthetically, it looked great, but I never felt fully connected with these characters. I never felt fully connected with the story itself, because there was a lot of weird jumps and timelines and certain things that were just too muddy, that I was like, what are you trying to achieve here? And again, presenting something that's seemingly so important just to never mention again felt very, very weak in storytelling for me. So I think this is going to be a stream it.
For me, I never got to connect with these characters. And I think a lot of that is a lot of the dialogue that they were using, and also the timeline just being very unclear, and the way that they would build something up but then never really do anything with it. True, the action scenes are cool.
Yeah.
The fight scene was very gory. There's just one in particular that you see in the trailers that's actually really cool and fun to watch. But it's like that, and then maybe like two other really short ones, and that's all you get throughout this entire movie. I got really bored. And normally, how often I look at my watch is a very good indication on how bored and how interested and how connected I am to this movie. And I looked at my watch maybe 5, 6, maybe a dozen times.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this movie a skip it.
And with that said, I also want to add that I don't know, I felt like music was for some reason I felt like music was gonna be real good in this one. The needle drops was not there for me. Like, the songs that they picked, for me personally, they didn't work. They didn't match the vibe for a lot of the scenes, and it also, it didn't help. Like, it didn't keep me interested in the movie. Like, in fact, I think it took me out of the movie. So there you have it. That is our thoughts on The Crow, the 2024 version. Let us know your thoughts once you've seen it in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.